Joining us now is Brian Egger, Bloomberg Intelligence Senior Gaming and Lodging Analyst. So super fun for me. Understood the game, which let me tell you, it's taken a really long time to do that. But I can imagine this kind of blowout isn't great for sports betting.
Yeah, it's a lopsided victory, maybe not the one that fans or that sportsbooks expected. So I look at it a few different ways. On the one hand, the outcome was good for sportsbooks because those long-dated future bets on the Chiefs winning again did not pay off for bettors, and because the prop bets, some arcane ones, Saquon Barkley or others, Travis Kelce scoring touchdowns or massive rushing yards, that didn't really happen either. So in that sense, it was good for sports books. The bad thing was because it was such a blowout game, all the bets on the over, the point spread exceeding a certain amount, or I should say the point total, those actually did pay off. So because it was such a high-scoring game, not as good for the books.
So when we think about sports betting and what it's looked like previous years versus this year in particular, of course, we know the Chiefs have won recently. So people were kind of expecting, there could be a potential win there. But what are we seeing in terms of the flow when we think about sports betting this year in comparison to past years?
Well, it's up in a couple ways. It's up because simply there are more sports books, and this is expected to be a particularly close game with a 1.5 point spread. It actually was not close, as we all know. And we've got mobile betting in 33 states. Our call before this game was that although it's going to be strong, the growth might not be as pronounced as last year because we only have 2 new mobile betting states this year versus maybe 6 or 7 last year.
How do most Americans do sports gambling now, to your point with the mobile gambling?
It's very popular to do so on one's mobile phone. So mobile betting, across the industry, across the year, if states have both mobile betting and brick and mortar sports books, 85% of the action is on your phone, on the mobile betting. So Americans are participating in different ways, casual betting, betting with friends, but certainly mobile sports betting has become a dominant form of wagering.
How much betting and gambling did Americans do on Sunday that were based in New Orleans?
Yeah, so we've seen, we have seen, and we've estimates of our own somewhere between $1.2, $1.5 billion. It was a pretty big number. The results are still kind of coming in, but overall, it was likely a very strong game. And I will say that, from a outcome perspective, it's generally the reason the sportsbook such at the tough fourth quarter was so many of the favorites won. Well, here, the underdog won. That on balance is generally favorable for sportsbooks, but, we'll see how it plays out because some of the outcomes were mixed.
Did you guys see any data in particular in terms of lodging and what that looked like in New Orleans this year?
So our presumption was that it would be strong. I think the general call on the physical location of the game was that not as favorable for Las Vegas because last year the game was in Vegas and that drove a lot of lodging and resort activity. This year probably more favorable for New Orleans, but of course we went into this with a lot of trepidation because we did have that New Year's Eve terror attack,
right,
and that may have dampened some of the enthusiasm. Though I say watching last night, it seemed to be a very engaged and large crowd.
Okay, so do we have a winner call from yesterday, or like in your universe, like what's your favorite stock right now?
So I think overall, the DraftKings and FanDuel's of the world have basically dominated this market. I think there's also room for other operators like BetMGM and Caesars. But when you look at the market, the bulk of betting is on DraftKings and FanDuel. Now, that being said, FanDuel's been dominant. DraftKings has kind of picked away at some of that market share. But there's certainly room in this very large industry for both. And I think overall, again, from last night's perspective, the big prop bets not paying off, the over-under bets, it's kind of like overall it worked out okay for the books.
All right, Brian, thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. Brian Egger, Bloomberg Intelligence Senior Gaming and Lodging Analyst.